Welcome to the movie poster review. It's finally here. There has been over 100+ submissions, the most ever for a student design challenge, and I've seen an incredible scale of content, our quality, and I guess I should restart that. I have seen so much talent represented in all the submissions. I am just blown away by your talents. We have all skill sets represented here, beginners to people who have been doing graphic design for years. So keep that in mind as we review all of these. So I'm going to stall, as I always do, for a couple of minutes just to see if I can catch some people live this morning. It is a Tuesday, and we have this crazy worldwide kind of thing going on here. So hopefully you can watch this and kind of, be at home and have something to do. And of course, we're always thinking about those who are sick and not feeling well, and I hope you guys are healthy and staying inside and staying away from all of this mess, because it's just something I've never experienced before, never thought I would. This is definitely a global situation. So I'm definitely thinking about everyone out there who's going through this. It's all on our hearts. It's the elephant in the room. I have to bring it up. But let me stall for a couple minutes, and I'm going to refresh my other page so I can see your live comments while I am going through all these. So just to let you know, I'm going to go in alphabetical order. Go ahead. This is all the submissions we need to go through. So that is a lot, maybe even more than 100. So what we're going to do is there's a couple things that might happen depending on how I have to go pretty quickly through each one. So I'm not going to be able to spend 5 minutes on each one. I have to spend about a minute or two if I want to get through all of them, or if I decide to take my time and spend time with them, we can chop this up into 2 videos and do A through L and then do M through Z. So I'm going to go through alphabetical order. So if you're watching this video and you want to find where yours is being critiqued, just know that I'm going in alphabetical all the way down the list based on the name of your Facebook page or the name of your Udemy student account, or however you sent me the project. That's going to be your first name alphabetically. So let me see if I'm live here on here. Here I am. Let me see in the comment. We've got 16 people live. People are still kind of waking up. It's 10 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States, so people are still waking up. Say hi for here. Let me know. I had to use my crappier audio. My professional microphone wasn't working very good today connecting live, but I got my MacBook Pro microphone, not as good quality as you hear on my classes, but it'll have to do. So just some quick housekeeping before we get started with our first submission is I have a course coming out next week or the week after. It all depends. I am 38 weeks pregnant, which means I can go into labor at any day. I can even go into labor tonight. Depending on that will depend on when this new After Effects class is coming out. I'm teaching an After Effects class with Ryan Collins, who's a talented student, and I caught him on the student Facebook group and said, we should do a class together because I think my students really ought to know Adobe After Effects and learn how to do some motion design work, some social media videos. I think adding video would be such a big part of a graphic designer's skill set moving forward in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I'm really excited about that. I think I have a little PDF teaser. This is a downloadable resource. We're going to go over frame rates, resolution. He's going to teach all of the software. He's going to teach you from scratch Adobe After Effects, which is kind of an intimidating program, but he's done an excellent job putting all those lessons together. But enough about that. Of course, I teach classes on Skillshare and on Udemy. So if you want to check those out, I'm going to be releasing a coupon on Udemy pretty soon. So check that out. So all the housekeeping stuff is done, and there's kind of me writing a whole new course for later. That's a whole nother thing. So let's get started with the fun stuff, and let's get started with our first entry. And I saved the plots to some of these if I didn't know what the plot was. Oops, I didn't mean to do Illustrator. Having a hard time here waking up this morning. But okay, so we have the Uber driver. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably spend a few minutes just so we can get to everybody in a reasonable amount of time. So the Uber driver, we all know that Uber drivers sometimes can be great and sometimes can be scary. Sometimes you can get murdered by an Uber driver. And I think that's kind of their play and take on this. You never know who is going to drive you in your next trip. So the missing part of the story based on true events. And there was a true event based on a murder An Uber driver murdered their passenger, and the other way happens as well. So be careful. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but I can kind of see where they went with this kind of monotone look with the red. And I think that really helps to, when you reduce color and you focus on one color, it really draws your attention and it makes it look very serious. Definitely reminds me of murder, blood, red, something really bad is happening here. We kind of have this pouring of blood. What I might do is just smooth out. You probably can go into Adobe Illustrator and smooth out all of these little rough edges a little bit better. And I would study real blood splatters and maybe even take the pen tool, trace over it so that you can get some more smooth lines. So that's just a very minor thing. The overall idea and concept is very nice. I might even make this, see, this typography is a little disjointed because you have a lowercase and an uppercase so close together, and you even have the G and the N kind of touching. So what I might do is commit to an all caps here, and based on true events, just use that same presentation for the missing part of the story. And I think that would really bring this all together. And we have the Uber driver. You might even be able to get away with a slightly thicker version of this typeface. Typeface is great. I would even just thicken it just a tiny bit to make sure it's different enough from the sentence below. And everything else below, I don't know if you copied and pasted that from another poster, but it looks really good if you did that from scratch. The bottom half looks like a real poster. So, you know, I'm not sure if you borrowed that typography or if you put it together yourself, but if you did put it together yourself, that's very impressive and perfect. I wouldn't touch the bottom half. So that's the first poster. Probably should move a little bit quicker for each one, but some of them I want to spend a little bit more time on. So this one, they're showing us kind of the photos they use to complete the composite. So this grass, they have a sky, and they have a dog, which I believe they took themselves. And let's see what the final looks like. There's even a picture. I believe that's their child. So I think these are real photos, if I can remember correctly. So that's even more impressive. All right, so Lou, March 2020. So the idea of having this kind of like a Clifford, if anybody's read the Clifford books about a big giant red dog and a boy, I'm guessing this is a similar play on that. So in terms of the scale and the composition, I think this is well done. The only thing I might do from just a design standpoint is maybe, because you have a lot of attention on this beautiful bright background, but you need to somehow get that focal point drawn right back into the center. And you can do that by adding a vignette on the sides, or you can kind of tone down the bright grass on the edges just to kind of bring your eye closer to the most important emotional connection part of the poster, and that's going to be the little boy and the dog. So somehow finding a way to really make that more of the focal point would really work well here. And that could be putting the text right here so that the eye is drawn more toward the focal point. And that would allow you to bring the boy up a little bit, have a little more grass, and it'll give you more room to put any kind of detailed information you need. But overall, the emotional impact and the fact that you used your own photos, and if I zoom in here, I can even tell that you did some layering mask work right here. And I need to make that brush so much smaller. You did some layering mask work here, and I can see how you got some little hairs that you brushed on top to make it look like he's really grabbing the dog's cheek. So I think that was really clever. Those little details really make it look great. Okay, we're going on down the line. Okay, so this is before and after. So this is, I saved some plots so we can get an idea. So this is a submission for a movie poster design. Him as a love story of a lonely female writer. Okay, so this is a lonely female writer. So we're talking about loneliness is the main emotion we're looking at here. Let's see what we have here. So definitely loneliness is communicated with this photo. It's actually a perfect photo. It's cropped really well. If this was zoomed out anymore, you would lose that emotional connection. So the fact that this is a tight shot of her and kind of bending over or kind of like having her head tilted over is perfect. And I like the size of the text. You don't have to have this gigantic movie title. It can be small. And it kind of, you know, she is big and the title is small. It makes it understated, but I think it works here. I think it looks really good. And I do like the typography here. just kind of very simple. Once again, you don't have to have the super large type everywhere. It could be clean, it could be smaller if you want to kind of give that emotional, more subtle vibe, which in this case, the emotion of loneliness works really well. And I even like this little dividing line, and I noticed that this blue connects with her blue shirt. So just kind of those little details that really kind of make this work well. So I think this is a fantastic movie poster. Okay, Alexandria. One of my favorite movies, Back to the Future. So what I like about this is you feature one of my favorite parts of the movie, which is actually the second movie, but I'm not going to get into too much details. But in Back to the Future 2, he has the hoverboard, and this is something, as a millennial, I've been waiting for hoverboards for 36 years. I'm waiting for that hoverboard, and I haven't found it. So it's really a great illustration. I like kind of the lines that you have here, just kind of diagonal, kind of similar to what they have on the original poster, where they kind of have this diagonal movement. Because we're going back in time, we're going into the future. There's a lot of different things happening in this trilogy, and I like how you presented that with this angle and sense of movement. And I also love the illustration of the hoverboard. I think that's really neat how you even have the drop shadow of the hoverboard right here. I think that's kind of clever and kind of adds to it. The only thing is the "to the" does get lost, so we just need to find better placement for that. So that could have to sandwich somehow between the type, because the "to the" just looks a little awkward bending like that. So that might be my only comment with typography. And I might move this little block just up just a tiny bit, just to have just a tiny bit more white space here. And so you don't have all this kind of little bit of awkward space right here. So I think this is a really great illustration. I like the angles. I like the hoverboard. I think you kind of picked out the one item that represents Back to the Future the most, and that would be the second one. So you might want to put 2 down there just to be accurate with your Back to the Future. I'm such a nerd, sorry about that. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. You guys are doing excellent so far. Very impressed. So this is a composite. So they combined an eagle, some fire, they have some New York City in the background. They made this composite consisting of this angel with fire wings. So let's take a look and see what it looks like. Go ahead and scoot up here. So the last phoenix. So the first thing I noticed, well, first of all, I like your composition. You did blending modes and some other kind of Photoshop techniques, really good here. The one thing I'm missing is it's very dark. It's very dark. I think the photo works. I think everything works. It just needs to become brighter. And you have this dark, and I don't mean use brighter colors. I just mean overall brighter, because it is hard to see, just from a viewing standpoint, not from a concept standpoint. Concept-wise, you want to kind of remain dark and gritty. I'm just meaning just from when it prints, it might print a little dark and be hard to kind of see because everything is dark. So you need to bring in some lighter elements. I know exactly, maybe an idea that you could do is the wings. You can really bring out the brightness of the fire of the wings to really bring your eyeball into the center point right here. So brightening those wings, adding more shadows and highlights, and adding more contrast to the wings and the fire might really, really help, because it looks like you have a reduced opacity on the wings. I'd make it full opacity and try your best at kind of bringing out something brighter in the poster. But in terms of typography, looks fine. You know, I don't have a problem. Once again, I'm losing, because it's dark on dark, I'm losing a little bit of the type. So you could even make the last phoenix, you know, white, and leave everything else as is, just to have some kind of focal point that's bringing something light in all the darkness. Okay, Amy is next. So they have 4 different posters. So let's pick out one that we think would work the best. So, and let me know. I'm going to ask you questions along the way. Which one do you prefer? You know, this will be one of those ones where I'm just going to bring in 2 that I think I like. It's the same poster, just 4 different ideas. I think this is a person who gets cancer, and they end up getting kind of wings blossom from it, from the tumor. So it's kind of like this strange thing that happens to her. She's desperate, and then all of a sudden this wonderful thing happens. So that's kind of the plot with the wings blossoming from, I believe that's what she said. This one's compelling. This one, I don't know what's happening. I do see the wings, and they did a really good job at putting that on in Photoshop, so great job. This one, to me, seems like a really great book cover as well. So I'm kind of seeing these more as book covers, and maybe they're meant to be book covers, and maybe I accidentally put in the poster challenge, but I would definitely add some more things that would be in the poster, like a release date, maybe a slogan, maybe your leading actors or actresses. That would really help as well. And so this one's interesting because I can tell you did a lot of work on this, kind of making it custom. So I kind of appreciate the work you did on this. This one might be a really cool, if you add maybe some texture on the dress and kind of made it look like she was really there. I don't know. I think that could have some potential as well. But there's something about this photo that kind of makes it look more cinematic. And I like the typeface choice here, especially for the name. Okay, so we have another one. Ooh, we got some custom illustration happening here. This is great. This is great. I love this diagonal line that's really kind of connecting the left and right sides. And you have this kind of division here with Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we have two different characters, superheroes represented. And I think because this is gray and this is gray, they almost look like they're accidentally put together, but not put together with a purpose because they almost seem too similar. So I think what you could do is even add some highlights or shadows or add some kind of division there to really bring out the fact that these are two different characters and masks. And I think once you do that, it'll look a little bit more deliberate that they are half and half. Because that's the only problem is it almost looks like, oh, it's a mistake because there's such a thin dividing line, such a thin division between the two that I don't quite see them as two characters. I see it more as, oops, I forgot to make the other eye red kind of thing. So just having more deliberate division, everything else looks fantastic. I like the diagonal background. I like the type choices. You kind of go with that diagonal background. I think that's fantastic. So just kind of making the division of the characters more deliberate and the background is fantastic. Okay, so we have a plot here. This one's interesting. So it's called The Dark Venus, and this is a made-up movie, and it's psychological mystery. And the imagery speaks to the dark aspects of feminine nature. So let's see what that looks like in poster form. You guys are very creative coming up with your own ideas. And I asked you where you got this photo, and I believe, what did you say? I can't remember where you said you got this, but it was one of those sites where you can get, I think you got it on Google, so you just have to be careful getting them on Google. But this is a beautifully stunning picture, and I love the central point. So you notice you have some background stuff going on, but it does not compete with the main photo. This is the main focal point, and it remains the main focal point throughout the entire design, and I think that is exactly the point. If these were any lighter, these two background photos, it would compete too much with the center photo, and the center photo would lose its value. And I'm not sure exactly what the original photo looks like, but if you did any kind of photo retouching, I think it looks absolutely fabulous with all these dark shadows. And we have the history of the Dark Venus, and I think the typography work looks good. This is kind of an interesting piece here. You're going to have to do that if you're going to overlay on top. You're going to have some kind of contrast there, and you did that. The only thing I worry about is this little fine, this is just such a small detail, but the fine type down here, I'm not going to be able to read that when it's printed on the poster, so there might be something we have to do to get that to be more readable over the poster, and turning that to white might be too jarring. So that's just something you'll just have to work out if this was ever a real poster or a real client. Those are those little details you have to figure out. So I'm just scooting up, sorry. And I think overall this is a very stunning piece, and it's because of that central photo. This makes it, and I think your typography choice is nice and simple, and it doesn't compete with the very beautifully detailed photo. All right, Anna or Anna, however you'd like to pronounce your name. So we have the Pink Panther, so we have some brainstorming that she did to try to figure out. So she looked at Pink Panther silhouettes and pictures, prior movie posters. She's doing some studying work, and making sure she knows kind of where, making sure she stays true to the Pink Panther brand, because it's a brand or a character that's been there for decades. So it's always good to kind of study, especially if you're working with a sequel. You know, what does the original movie look like? It's very important to kind of do that research process. So let's see what she came up with in the end. Ooh, this is really cool. So what she did is she did a cast shadow here, and then we have the silhouette, which is really neat because it's all about, you know, stealing the diamond and all that stuff, or finding out who stole the diamond. And I think this works really good. And what I would do is maybe even make this and this the same shade, so it almost looks like the same shadow cast on it. Right now they're just slightly different, but I think this works. I also like how it's cast as a diamond in the overall cropped shape. I think that's something to bring up. The title looks good. All the typography looks really good. What I also like is how this is two-toned, so it pops out and you're incorporating the pink as a themed color. So I really like this. This is great. It's kind of a simple poster, and I think it upholds to other Pink Panther movies. Okay, so we have some different ones. We have two versions here, and I'm going to tell you which one I like better immediately. So we have this version, which is the revised version, and this is the original one. And the revised version had this, let me see if I can't get rid of that, almost had a Christmas color palette, and I think that's what threw me off. Is I think of Christmas when I see red and green put so close together. I'm thinking Christmas. I like the cleaner look of this, but I think if you tweaked the bridesmaid to a different color, perhaps pink or purple or something feminine, I think this would probably be a really good layout compared to the other one, because I think this is almost, you have a photo in here, but see, you have two focal points. You have the big, this one, and then you also have these eyes and other things. It's too many focal points, so you have to give up one of those focal points to make sure the first one really shines. So what I would do is, I like the layout of this. I would definitely tweak the color here, and you may not need to have this bevel look, or you can make it softer, because these bevel effects, they're really hard to use and maintain a modern look. So it's really drop shadows, bevel, and embossing, especially in the layering effects panel and Adobe Photoshop. Sometimes it's really hard to make some of these look really modern because they're overused a lot. So you have to be very careful about just maintaining a modern, sleek type look. So, but I do like the photo. I think the photo works, the type works. You just need to maybe work on colors, and maybe this coming soon. We have a lot going on here. We have this and this and this. So maybe make coming soon a tiny bit smaller, just to give you a little bit more room in your visual hierarchy. Wow, we're only on the bees. We're already 23 minutes in. So Inception, if you haven't seen this movie, it's about dreaming and how you can manipulate your dreams, and you can have a dream within a dream within a dream. And each time you go in a level of dreaming, time in the real life slows down. So that's just a quick little plot for you. But Inception, I think the background photo, I think all this is fine. I would love to see less of the buildings being kind of manipulated, and I'd like to see more of the people, because you got some pretty big people in here. I believe you have Leonardo DiCaprio, Ellen Page, Tom Hardy. You have some big names, and when you sell a poster, you're selling these big name actors as well. So I would zoom in a lot more on the actors, still show, you probably can just crop it here, not worry about all this. I mean, you need the title, but don't worry about the background here. Push all that up and zoom in on the characters a little bit more, because you have some big actors, you got to see their faces. It's almost a requirement, because they're paying big money to get those actors on the docket. So I like the Inception type. I think that works. I think Christopher Nolan needs to be bigger, maybe all caps. I feel like when lowercase lettering, you don't want to have wide gaps in your lowercase lettering, so make that all caps if you're going to have wide spacing. Or if you want to keep it lowercase, then tighten the spacing between the characters. But overall, I do like the idea. I like the layout is very good. Just maybe some tweaks to provide a little bit more of an emotional impact and a connection to those big name actors. All right, so Barb, here's her manipulation, which looks really eerie. kind of really probably did the dodge and burn tools and used some other things to really highlight the irises. And so that's just kind of a neat, kind of spooky photo. So let's see what the poster looks like. So here's the poster, and I think you have a similar problem that the other poster had with the angel wings, is it's a little dark. You have this beautiful photo. I would really bring that out even more because I think it works and grabs you when it's full color and when it's not screened back. And the Netflix original series can still exist there. It just depends on, you know, how it looks. That might be something you need to tweak. But you don't have to have the whole thing bright. You can still keep the castle dark so that you can have some of this other type. I would definitely remove this box because it doesn't look quite as sleek and modern. So what I would do is Premiere March 2020. Just make that white or make that a really bright color so you don't have to use a box. Anytime you can avoid using extra boxes and bounding boxes, the better. So I would definitely bring out that photo because I thought it looked really cool and you don't want to dull that down. So that would look really interesting. That would capture my attention more than the darker version, or at least focus on her eyes and make that brighter if you feel like you still need to make the photo darker to fit the typography. So everybody's doing an excellent job. So this is the plot of this movie. In a world where families are allowed only one child due to overpopulation, resourceful, identical septuplets must avoid government execution and dangerous infighting while investigating the disappearance of one of their own. All right, so interesting plot. We have some sisters here. Okay, so these are all sisters. They're sextuplets, and they're defending themselves against an empire that's oppressive. So overall, let's go take a look at the layout overall. This is a fantastic layout, and I'm going to tell you why. You have a beautiful focal point, very simple. You have multiple people, but they all create one single focal point. You have this very nice, beautiful typography where you have nice separation and breathing room. And this is really nice because you have some contrast between the type. You have some light type up at the top, and you have some bolder type at the bottom, and it pairs nicely together. They even have kind of this red line that kind of helps separate the type from the main focal point. You have some great background stuff going on here, and it does not overpower the main focal point. And we also have a great title here, and of course Netflix. This has lots of breathing room. This is just a fantastic layout. I wouldn't have a whole lot to change. What I might do is close the gap just slightly between these two lines just to make it more connected as a title. Not very much, just maybe 20% tighter. That would probably be my only obvious comment. I wish there was something we could do with this bubble right here. Instead of just making it a gray background, make it a solid red background. So you have a solid red circle right here. I think that would look really good to help everything pop out. And you don't have this seemingly random background cropped out. It'll look like she was cropped out and put on that red circle or blue circle or whatever you want to do to really kind of make that pop. So that's just kind of a little suggestion. And I think this looks great. Brian. Oh, this is a lovely layout. So we kind of have the multiple faces of all the actors being featured. You see this as a very popular way to show if there's more than one amazing actor who's well known, you kind of have to feature their faces. Once again, tight shot, close shot. And I like the way this is presented. What I might do is we have a little room here. I don't know if you could just bring that up just like 10%. Have a little room for your title. This disconnect title, though, seems a little messy. So we have kind of this beautiful typography, and then you have this kind of division. And I know what you're trying to do, disconnect. You're trying to show that. What I might do is have this all be white and kind of maybe do something different with this little, maybe remove that, because you have two things going on. You have this shape going here, and I really got to reduce that even further in size. So you have this shape right here, and you also have this dividing thing. That's too many things. You got to pick one. So we either have the disconnected flowing through, or we have the distorted text. I suggest removing this little rainbow kind of line that goes through and stick with the distorted text and make it all white and still have it be sliced. I think that would look a lot more clean and would really help that whole area look less busy. But in the end, I think the composition of photos and some of the typography work here is really well done. And I do like this typography choice. That's a great choice. Just kind of simplifying, having, you don't want to have two things going on. You want to really simplify it, just having this the distort action going on. All right, so we have, this is the Sims franchise, which is a game, and Soul could mean hello, goodbye in their made-up language. So I love Sims growing up. I used to do all sorts of crazy things to my Sims. I was nice, and sometimes I was mean to them, but I love to build the houses and create these families and characters. I love the Sims. And if you ever played it, they have this gobbledygook language, like do-ba-da, 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 and it's just kind of silly. It's a made-up language. So that's where they got the idea of the Soul. So that's just a little background. All right, so this is the Sims. Is it Sui, Soul? Because that looks like an I. It could look like an I, so maybe make sure that looks like an L. I might even do a little, it's kind of a horror version, and they have kind of the blood. I think the idea is great. I think the fact that you use the Sims diamond, which is a very popular icon in the Sims franchise, is great. What I might do is just clean it up a little bit, kind of have some cleaner lines with your blood and kind of some cleaner lines with the typography. You don't make it so much kind of wonky. You make it a little bit, has a little bit of character, but not so much that it looks, too distorted. So just kind of cleaning up your lines, making them more smooth. I think you have a good concept here. It's just about cleaning it up a little bit and, all that stuff. But I think the typography is fine. The concept is fine. I think this is a really cute idea. I love that game too. Ooh, The Shining. This one's a good one. I had a lot of comments on the Facebook group with this one. Everybody loved this one. And what I like about it is this texture. So people are like, well, that's a cool texture. That's nice. But it's in the movie. It's a very iconic texture floor that you see inside the movie. So it's incorporating this iconic floor that everybody knows is associated with The Shining. They incorporated that into the poster. But not only this, they did this very simplistic kind of artistic layout with this. And I think it looks very like Art Deco, modern, very like postmodern. I love that style with The Shining because it's a very postmodern movie. I think it was released in early 80s or late 70s. I can't remember. But Redrum, if anybody's watched the movie, you got to watch it. And you have the axe, which of course is at the end of the movie where he just gets the axe and he goes crazy. And that's also a very popular icon of the movie. And I like how the title is not huge. It's just big enough to show everything. And of course they use the I for the axe. So all these little details, and I love the typography at the bottom too. This is genius, very clean, and it goes along with that postmodern design style. So kind of a flat, simple artistic design. And I think this is a piece of art. So I can really appreciate this. This is a very stunning piece, and I think this could be a contender for the Best in Show. Of course, I have a Best in Show contenders and runner-ups. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at all the posters yet, but this is definitely going to be an honorable mention because I just really, really appreciate this one. So great work. Whew, my voice is going to be gone by the end of all this. Let's see. So this is a plan. So Jessica Alba, it was her glow they could not resist. It was her garden they could not escape. Firefly. Okay, so coming March. So they kind of planned this out, and I loved how they used this engineering kind of plot grid, which is great. Anytime you can use grids and plan out your layout, it always gives you a head start. And your design, we're going to see a lot more of that later on. Okay, so Firefly. So you can kind of see her sketch coming to life a little bit. It looks a little stretched, but that just could be how you exported it. So I'm not going to knock you on this. So Firefly, so what I would do is the focal point is not the name of the movie. It could kind of be her, but my eye continues to gravitate toward these two big blocks of type. I think it might be a little much to put on the poster. I might make this type a little bit smaller so that you can really bring out the photo and the title. These are going to be your main two. So if this is one focal point, you want to connect that to two. And this, you can't have three. So We need to do something, not eliminate it, but make it smaller. And we also have a whole nother paragraph here. So we need to put that up here as smaller type, as like a little review. Just to simplify, we don't want to have too many blocks of copy all sitting there wanting to be read, because then the viewer gets a little confused and go, well, what do I read next? What do I read next? You got to have some proper type hierarchy. So kind of doing some things. So I think I would put that up there. I would make this smaller, and that would give you a chance to get the title to be, you know, a little bit more prominent. But in terms of the photo work and the elements you have, I have no problem with those. I think those all look really strong. Okay, so these are 3 different ones. I'm not gonna have time to review. If anybody's done multiple posters, I'm just gonna have time to review one. So lovers on the island. So what I would do is we have a lot of the same colors here. So we have a title that has the same color, and we also have a background that's the same color, and nothing is popping out to me. The figures are fine, but I just feel like something needs to pop out, and I don't know what that would be. So we probably need to change the headline to all white or a different color other than the background so that can really pop out. I think what you got here is you got a poster where I look at palm trees and I'm not seeing the lovers. So what we need to do is bring the lovers back into the center, put the palm trees as some kind of little side thing. You don't need to have the palm trees in the center. Forget about the palm trees. We can have palm trees on the sides and the corners. They get a good idea that it's on an island. Or you could put the palm trees kind of growing that way, so they're at the bottom. But you don't want your palm trees to be the subject matter. They're on an island, but the real core of the movie is lovers. So you want to have that as your focal point and zoom in more on the lovers' heads. Okay, so Charlotte is next. So we have this one. Let's go ahead and get down the last emperor. So this is the original. I went ahead and found the original poster, just so we can get an idea. As the last emperor, about an emperor boy, and he was born to rule the world, but of course nothing prepared him for our world of change. So this is kind of more about a modern emperor in China. So this is the original one. We have kind of your focal point, which is going to be the baby. We have this background that sets the tone and stage for the movie, and we have this nice headline. It kind of explains everything really well. So let's take a look and see what you guys did. So this is what they did. They decided to take the baby out, or the child, I guess I should say, and they decided to focus more on the mountains and the landscape of China, which makes it a kind of a different, modern, contemporary take, which is really kind of cool to kind of take that, because this is a very traditional, I don't know when this movie came out, not that one. I don't know when that movie came out, but it kind of had kind of an 80s, 70s kind of, they did the posters all the same. So this is definitely a unique take on that, kind of removing the baby or the emperor and focusing more on, okay, this is from China. And I love the top typography, great choices there. What I would do is I don't think the title is as strong as it could be. I think we could use a thicker typeface if you have such a busy mountain background. It would be almost neat to do all white right here, or find another location for that so it looks really clean there. Or you can even have it really thick and have maybe the E, looks like you have the E going behind the mountains. Continue to play with that idea. The typography on the bottom is really good as well. So I think it's just working on that title. I lose it. It's not quite as strong, but the idea of having it just show the background with mist, you know, that's kind of a really interesting modern take on it. All right, who do we have here? Pulp Fiction. Do I have the updated version of this? Okay, yes. Okay, so I don't have the original one to show you, but it's a pretty iconic cover. You have a picture of this lady right here with her legs up, and it's Pulp Fiction, and that's all it is the lady on the front. And this one features a whole lot of different ladies. So Welcome to the World Without Rules, a masterpiece by Quentin Tarantino. So Pulp Fiction. So I'll tell you what I like about it first. So it kind of has this collage feeling to it, which it's very much a movie that would have that style. Just kind of this random collage. We're just like getting together. It's kind of a raw movie. So I think I do appreciate kind of how it looks like more of a collage magazine cover, like an older cover from the 60s or 70s. What we need to focus on is we have all these ladies, but you have some amazing men in this movie too. John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson. You have two really big names, and they need to be featured because they focused on this one woman in the original, but it would be neat to kind of show off some of these actors as well. Because I'm not quite sure who the other ones are. So just kind of focusing on maybe a collage of different of the head actors kind of in there would probably be better, because right now it just looks like four ladies. They all have the same size, and so changing up the size depending on how important they are in the movie might be good. And you'll see that in Star Wars posters and Titanic and all those big posters where they feature a whole collage of all the actresses and actors. They'll put the bigger, most important characters bigger, and everyone else is behind them. That's a definite Star Wars movie poster kind of idea, and I think that would work really well here. So this one is when they did the custom illustration work, so they did that. This is not something they purchased. They did that in vector art. So first of all, kudos to an amazing illustration. So I like that. I really, 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 really like this poster. There's not a whole lot I would change about it. I even like this little, I'm not a big fan of borders, but I actually like this, this black border. I think the type is very fitting. It's hand script, written type, and you can almost imagine it written in blood. So I think that's really good. I think one thing we need to make sure is we might need to have a little more spacing between, you can't see my red on red, between these two, just adding just very small spacing here to have some breathing room up top. But everything else I wouldn't change. I like how we have this kind of gradient into boxes. Kind of reminds me of Grand Theft Auto illustration. I don't know why, but it looks fantastic. And look, off the glow off of the highlights kind of matches the glow of the sun. So those little subtle details to make the illustration really belong to the background, I can appreciate. So this is one of my favorite posters I've seen so far. Really well done. I wouldn't change a lot to it. I just think it looks great. And I'm just plugging along here. If you guys have any questions or any comments, hey, I like that or I don't like that, just put it in the comments. Feel free to make as many comments as you want. The more comments we have, the more interaction we have, I think it'd be really good. So I'm just kind of plugging away since I have so many to review. So here's my movie poster submission. It's a take on an upcoming Wes Anderson film. His films are drama with a hint of humor. Okay, so drama and humor are the main themes. Let me get a drink of water. My voice is dry. Oh, this is lovely. Whew, talking a lot. So the French Dispatch. So this kind of has that collage look to it as well. And it gives it this really cute, fancy, very era-driven kind of, or era-appropriate presentation. And I kind of like this hodgepodge look to it. The type looks really good and handwritten. You have this great texture in the background, which adds to this handwritten typography. You have kind of these boxes that aren't perfectly square that kind of gives it that collage, building this with paper and building this with different multimedia. I think that looks really good. I like this quite a bit, and the house that you probably removed and photoshopped in here is really good too. And you have these really cool characters that are featured of the movie. I would almost want to see this building even a little bit bigger, just to focus more on that, and maybe the title slightly smaller because it is such an interesting piece. And the typography choices here are good too. You used a slab serif for a lot of this, almost like a newspaper type coloring here to the right. I think this is really well done. It's got tons and tons and tons of character. And so I think it's just rich. It's kind of got this rich look to it. And I think it really matches with kind of that French, looks like it could be early 1900s kind of era and vibe. So well done. Okay, so we have a mood board here we need to look at. Let's take a look at this one. So where's the mood board? Here's the mood board. So the tagline, the world needs stories like ours of choices, city and lights. Okay, gender, colors used, kind of getting some inspiration. So there's their inspiration on the lower left. There's some photos they thought would look really good. So let's see what they have in the end. So forget me not. What I might do is we have a lot going on, and so we just need to simplify. No big deal. We have these two characters sitting here. We have a sunset. We have a book opening, and we have another scene. So we have two scenes. We have a sunset on top of a city. So what I might do is join the two. We have a sunset and a city. Somehow combine the two. We got two scenes set here on one movie poster, and that could start to get too complex for the viewer. So if there's any way we can simplify that, so forget me not. There might be the world needs stories like ours of choices, city lights, and horizons. So you have this book flipping open to kind of do that. I almost wonder if you can incorporate that somehow into the title, and you don't have to have the book overtake setting the scene of the movie. And I would have them be full opacity and not faded back, somewhere maybe down here. So it's just more of the whole idea of simplification and not having too many items and focal points for the viewer to try to focus on, because then it starts to get a little overwhelming and it starts to get busy. So it's just that simplification that you have to do. Okay, Daniel. So here is a plan. So Dam Busters, old film, remade with today's actors in 2020. I think that says actors. 3 actors, 2 male, 1 female. So they're making some plans. Dark background, white text, old film, make it black and white. So let's see what they ended up with. So here's kind of their inspiration. Let me go ahead and double click that. Inspiration, kind of your classic 90s movies, Schindler's List, Pearl Harbor, Saving Private Ryan. And that's the original movie. And let's see what they came up with. Oh, this is nice. Okay, so they're keeping with that era. They're kind of going with the sepia look for this because it was, I'm assuming it's World War II. I don't want to get that wrong. But the typography and title and ratings, I have 0 problems. I think that all looks really, really good. I think this looks excellent as is. I know with modern movies, if this was to be re-released, it's hard to sell an all sepia poster because people look for that rich color. It's so hard to compete these days if you look at modern movie posters. So I'm not sure how to solve that issue, but I think you took an older movie and you made it more authentically older and kept that with your poster design. So I say kudos. I think that was probably the right decision. You know, you don't have to be all bright and shiny and compete with the newer movies. You could do something different and really stand out. So the photo composition work is excellent as well. So I just wanted to bring that up, that I was really proud of that. So we have more people live. We've got 40 people live. Woohoo! Okay. So this film tells the story of an English aristocrat who is captured by the Sioux people. All right, so let's take a look at this one. This is a Lego movie. My kids love the Lego movies. I grew up playing Legos, so I love it. So A Man Called Horse. So we have this Lego movie, and what I would like to see is, you know, kind of maybe a little action, because most of the Lego movies, I mean, if you ever sit down and watch one, I mean, there's something going on every single second. Definitely made for kids. So you want to be able to appeal to your target audience, which is kids, which might feature more than the first character. It might feature other characters. It might have a background scene going on. This would be great for an adult post. Maybe that's what you meant to do. Maybe you meant to make this for kind of an adult Lego movie, and if so, I think you did a great kind of caricature of the movies that are similar to this, but catered toward adults. So if that was the case, I think you did a really good job. It's a great kind of comedy piece for that. If it was going to actually be one released to kids, of course, kids are like, oh, I want to see action, blah, 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 blah. But if this was kind of targeted toward adults, it's kind of a funny kind of take on going back and seeing what it looked like in the 50s doing these posters. You're spot on. I think it's really funny. Next, we're in the D's now, man. Okay, so Anna, ever since I've watched Frozen, my 3-year-old daughter, I go, Anna. She's like, no, it's Anna. I'm like, oh, I give up. So Anna or Anna, so it could be either or. So this photo composition is eerie and really well done. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see some of the details of this. I kind of like how the fingers are overlaid over the brick. This is just very eerie and interesting, and it really wants me to really want to watch the movie after seeing that photo composition. So what I think everything looks really good. The type at the bottom looks great. The photo composition looks sharp, crisp, well composed. The only thing is I lose Anna. I lose Anna. I lose the title. So, and I think it's because you have dark red on a dark brick, and I'm just not quite picking it up. And you have this beautiful texture work on the photography. I almost wonder if you could do some texture typography as well, make it thicker, maybe make it a little bit brighter red, like blood red instead of a deeper red. And that, I think just the title, if you can get that to pop out just a little bit more, I think you have a perfect poster, because the photo composition is, I wouldn't touch a thing. I think it looks fantastic. Okay, so we have a plan here. So there's their plan. I don't have it flipped. I guess I can flip it. So motorcycle movie. They have some different types. This is one they made up. Full throttle, action, romance. A guy who is in love with the daughter of a syndicate leader, wants to investigate the father by joining the illegal race organized by the syndicate group. So kind of a 80s plot. Let's see what, okay, cool. So Full Throttle. So I don't get all the details of that amazing plot in this movie. I see a guy who does motocross racing or something. I see it being like a, you know, racing, kind of like a, oh, what's that movie with the car, Fast and the Furious, where they're just doing racing. I don't get that complex plot from this, but I love the typography, how it's diagonal. I like this texturing of the typography too, so there's some design elements I really like. In terms of concept, I just see a guy kind of racing on a motorcycle, but why should I care? You got to give me a reason to care about this guy. What's going on? Is it just a motorcycle movie, or is there more complex themes going on? But in terms of typography, you got to be careful of the red here. I lose the red. And we also have red, and we also have orange. So what you could do is use this typography for the only in theaters. Use that up here for this line of type. So you can bring those two together into the poster. But the layout is great. The head kind of coming into the title is very good. So there's some elements I definitely like of this poster. Oh, are we halfway there yet? Okay, let's see. Oh, this one's great. So they did a lot of them, and I just don't have time to review them all. So I'm going to pick the one I like the most. I think this is great because they did the illustration. I said, oh, you must have found that on Google. No, they did a custom vector illustration of Darth Vader, which is so cool. So just the illustration alone is amazing. And the fact that they did kind of a very representative title for this, they've kept to the original 70s vibe of the typography. So they're keeping, it's almost a retro poster, keeping those 70s late 70s elements together, but still remaining modern and clean. So they did such a good job at balancing those two things. It's clean. I have nothing to say bad about this. The bottom typography is well done too. So it's just kind of a really cool modern poster, just like The Shining. I kind of feel the same way about The Shining poster that I feel about this one. Just kind of using less stuff, less junk. It just looks good. You know, you don't need to have 50 photos and 50 headlines. You can do something very clean and simple and communicate so much more with less. So thank you. And you did a bunch of other ones like Forrest Gump, which I love that movie. Maybe at another time. You can always check out the student Facebook groups where people post all these and you can make comments. Okay, tribute to the legend, Sufi artist, playing with different font styles. So this is an artist kind of contribution. Let me get the one that's on the poster. I think this looks good with the texture on it. Okay, so let's see. So this one, oh, this one's nice. Very interesting typography work. As a poster, I get a little overwhelmed with it, but I think from a design standpoint, it's definitely a really kind of interesting poster design. What I might do is continue to kind of make sure you have good type hierarchy. You have a lot of vertical text here, and it's great to use vertical text sparingly. So what I might do is, I'm trying to think, just adding a little spacing here around the edges, have a nice thick border that will help kind of make it feel concise and clean, and kind of what we need to do is when a user looks at something, we want to be able to read that biggest thing first, then the second biggest thing, and then the third most important thing, and so on. So that's kind of type hierarchy. And right now we have one, let me see if I can get my pen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 things that all seem to be about the same size, same type treatment. And so I'm having a hard time going, well, where do I read first? Give me some help on where my eye should go first. You know, people need help like that. So I think if you just ordered it in a certain way, I think that would look really good, maybe even bring out this headline more. But what I like about this is I like the color scheme. I also like the photo collage put together, and the type doesn't bother me as much. I just think we just need to get a sense of type hierarchy with this to really rein this in, because there's a lot of goodness. There's a lot of great qualities of this poster. We just need to make sure we give the viewer a way to digest all this in a nice, easy format. Okay, so this one's about a U.S. Army Ranger who was separated from his group on military maneuvers. He came upon an entity from another world, which warns him of impending doom. So the visitor. Oh, cool. Kind of the Third Kind kind of style movie. The Visitor coming. Okay, so let's see what it looks like in flesh and blood. Oh, nope, I don't want to open up Publisher. Ah! Okay, sorry. Hate it when that happens, when you have 50 programs down there. So the Visitor. Interesting. So this person almost looks like Indiana Jones with a shotgun. So I'm not sure if that's true to your sketch. So let's take a look at your sketch. Looks like you have an innocent man. No, he's not a soldier. He doesn't have a gun. He's like a man who is at the mercy of the aliens. So this is what I would do is I like this idea. This is great. So I just think you need to translate, instead of having this Indiana Jones character with a gun and cargo pants, that we continue to make him innocent and that he is being abducted or he's being oppressed by this alien visitor. It's scary to him. He's not confident. He's worried. So I would definitely kind of tweak that silhouette. But the typography, the custom headline is really cool. I like how it glows too. So I don't have any problems with this custom kind of grittiness to it. I think that looks really good. I would just make sure, because I kind of lose him. I don't care about him because he's got a gun. He'll be fine. So make me care about this innocent guy who's being oppressed. So just kind of some thoughts. Okay, Georgia, is my sound coming in clear? Because I'm kind of moving around, trying to get comfortable. When you're 9 months pregnant and you can give birth at any day, it's really hard to get comfortable. So this is, I'm going to be sitting down for a long time. So just bear with me. I just have to keep stretching. Whew, I might even need to have an intermission here in a little bit. So just bear with me. All right, so this one. So I was watching The Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams. Love Robin Williams, and got inspired by it. My movie's about a robot that looks like a human and he struggles with life. Okay, so this is inspired by AI technology trying to fit into a human world. Ooh, this is neat. So you have another kind of contemporary flat modern piece. And I think, Therefore I Am, the Tin Man. So this is great because you have a solid colored background and you don't have a whole lot going on. So my eye has no problem looking at the focal point, looking at this clean typography, and then you have this great white kind of bottom here where you can put the type and reverse it out. So not the whole thing is not red, so you're kind of dividing it up a little bit. And the illustration almost reminds me of the, what's the movie? Oh, my kid loves. The Iron Giant. Looks like the Iron Giant. I love that movie too from childhood. So I like this a lot. Of the illustration and the concept are super duper strong. Haven't had a whole lot of negative things to say because you guys are doing such a good job. Okay, so we have another sketch. So Into the Wild. Ah, okay, I know this one. So if anybody's seen this movie, it's about a man. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's about a man who pretty much socially isolates itself, and he goes out into I think it's the Alaskan wilderness. He has a bus, and he just kind of lives out there and survives. And there's some things that happen with a bear, and it's a true story. So you'll just have to watch the movie to find out what happens, but that's the basic plot. This is their take into it. It's so well done. Let me see if I can't bring this into Photoshop. So this is just showing that they did all of the vector illustration for this. So this is probably a cajillion layers. You can see how thin that is. So that's going to be a lot of different layers that they put together. So from a technical standpoint, it's quite impressive that they took the original poster, which I think I have the original poster. This is the original poster, I think. No, wait, that's what they did. Let me see if I have the original poster. I may not, but let's go ahead and take a look at both of these. So from a technical perspective, it's, oh, I don't want to launch Illustrator either. Why am I dragging it into Photoshop? Okay. So Into the Wild, so this is their take on it. I think that's their take, or is that their, I downloaded the original and I should have titled these. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So they did all that. Just looks amazing how they did all that. And the typography looks really good here. This is impressive. So let me know, raise your hand if you're impressed by that vector work. That takes so much time to do, and it's, oh wow. And I think also the typography at the top looks good too. I think that's the original, and then that's what they did is right here. So what they did is they kind of took that white border off and they kind of made it a little bit more modern as it bleeds to the sides. And I think this is incredibly impressive. So I'm just going to leave this up here for like 20 seconds so you can really appreciate the time it took to get all this done. Ooh, and I'm also taking a breather. Whew, but this is a great poster to take a breather on because it's beautiful to look at. A great typography too. All right, moving on. We have, ooh, cat. Let's see, they have some different versions of this poster. Okay, so what's this about? My son came up with the idea that a cat transforms into a monster, so I had to go with it. The mocked up one is my favorite version. So the mocked up one. So let's go ahead and just show this one because we don't have time to do all the mock-ups. Hey, I like this presentation. You have this great focal point of the eye. You have a great date, great typography. You have this little slice here of the T. It's clean, and it's got a nice basic type hierarchy up here. You got some great typography at the bottom. This overall looks really good and really clean. I think it's just a matter of finding a sharper photo to really bring out some of the amber of the eyes and the little textures and details you see in a cat's eyes. And that could just be it's hard to get that photo without paying for it. So if I were to make this a real poster, I would get one with super high resolution where you really get those details and textures of the eye. But for what you have, I think this works really well. And you had one where you had kind of these three cats, and I definitely like the more simple one of just the one eye. And this is your mock-up. One of the mock-ups. That could be a real poster. Ooh, van life. This is one I featured in my little promo here for doing this today. So that's their sketch. I think some of the better ones have a sketch with it because I get a good idea of kind of the basic layout so they don't hit Photoshop or Illustrator and then you're stuck. It kind of helps you get unstuck. All right, so van life, what I like the cropping of this photo that's natural from the window of the van. And I think that makes it a really compelling piece. And you also have this very slight movement of the type. It's not straight across. And it actually goes with the movement of the window. And I think that's super duper clever. And I love the typeface. It's got this nice chunkiness to it. And you don't have to do all these effects to it to stand out on the background. It stands out on its own just with this little bit of drop shadow because the typography is already so thick. And we have this thin typography that pairs with it, which looks good. And we have some very simple type hierarchy down here below. But I think what makes this work is two things. We have this beautifully cropped photo. You can tell it's in a van, but you also have kind of two photos in one. But you could tell, look, they're in the cover, they're in the van, they're chilling out. It kind of really explains what the documentary is about. And then, of course, it's like, well, why wouldn't you want to have a view of that living in a van? So it's very compelling. This is a super, super strong entry. Ooh, we're not almost done, but I would say halfway there, maybe. We're in the H's. We're in the H's officially. So we might have to go a little bit quicker. So this one has a lot of great preview images. I hate how I'm not going to be able to spend tons of time on each one of these because they did a lot of concept work here with it. So I think what I'm going to have to do is just open up one of these. Rule of three. Let's just open up the posters. So I really like the detailed photos here and how they have kind of blood, water, lightning, kind of have the three. All is fair in love and war. I do lose this a little bit, so I would just brighten up instead of using a medium gray. I would do like a white and then like a medium gray, just very small little changes. I like this text, this kind of almost gold treatment to the text. It kind of matches the silver kind of look to it. And the typography work here, if you use layering styles in Photoshop, are really cool. That's a great way to use the bevel and emboss effect without making it look dated. It looks really rich and really nice typography. I almost wish the of had similar treatment because the of has like this transparency to it. It makes it look cheaper. And this looks nice and rich, and that just doesn't. So I just almost wish the of had similar treatment. But I really like how this looks overall. Let's take a look at it. Let me get rid of all my red marks. And so let me know if you did that yourself or where you found these particular pieces. You might have explained that in your other photos. Double click. So, okay, so they found that off maybe some Assassin's Creed weapons textures. Just looks really good. All right, so the next one, bad for good. So this is really interesting. What I might do is, this is kind of a cool focal point, brighten the head up. Whatever you have to do to kind of bring out the pixels more in the head and make them more highlights. Because I think that would really add some more dynamic lighting here, because everything has almost the same lighting. You have kind of the same treatment, but if you were to really highlight that head, I think it would complement the headline really good. And just make sure this kind of shows up a little bit more. So maybe even bring out just certain parts as highlights of this. That would be really interesting. It'd really help the photo come out and come alive and break away from that dark background. All right, Henry. Bruce Lee. It's a Bruce Lee movie. Dragon Warrior. It's kind of almost got that era to it, because Bruce Lee movies, they don't always take themselves super seriously, you know? So I kind of like this more playful play on it, where you have this over-the-top rainbow dragon breathing snot of smoke out, and you have him kind of doing his ninja jump kick. And so I think it matches with the type of movies that he made. So I think from that standpoint, it's good. I'd be careful of drop shadows and bevels and bosses. These are hard to do without making it look dated. So I would do a more sharper bevel and emboss maybe, and just maybe add some texturing or some kind of highlights or something to this type to make it look more rich. And maybe take your drop shadow, lighten it, maybe blur it a little bit so it's not as sharp. It'll help kind of modernize that a little bit more. But very creative way of putting it together. I'd be careful about the bottom two. We have kind of this, if you've seen what the other posters look like, they all have this similar look if you study posters of the credits. So just study other posters and see how their credits look, so you can have kind of more of a consistent look with the other posters. It'll just make it look a little more clean. Isabel, the plot: a troubled ex-artist with a past of drug abuse has become the mentor of a young, handsome artist, and they fall in love. Okay, so troubled past, falling in love. Let's see what that looks like here. Okay, and Gil says both of them are mine. Neither is the original post. So when we went back to the Into the Wild, those were both theirs. So I just want to make sure that she got credit for that. I thought I saved the original, but I think I just looked at it. So that's where I was confused. When you have 100 different posters, you get them all kind of mixed up in your head sometimes. So Matt Damon, Jude Law, Viola Davis, A Gentle Kiss. So this is kind of, I can even tell he's got like a rough past. But so he's kissing a statue. Let's see what this plot was again. He's kissing a troubled ex-artist with a past of drug has become a mentor of a young, handsome artist, and they fall in love. Okay, so must be a sculpture artist. Interesting. What I would do is tighten up this title. This title needs to be more cohesive, so tighten that up a little bit. Maybe make it slightly bigger. I would put a little bit more breathing room between your typography here. Maybe make that all white or make the first or last names yellow and the first name's white, just to kind of make sure all these don't look like one big long name. Just kind of somehow break it up visually, the different names. I think the bottom looks great. March 23rd could probably be bolder. I think this looks interesting. Very good, interesting plot. Very compelling photo. See how it's very tight, zoomed in. There's some kind of emotional response you get when you have a photo that's this tight on faces. Sorry, I'm breathing hard. I just have a 8-pound baby in my belly. So I'm like, I feel like I'm breathing really hard. Like, sorry about that. Okay, so here's the photo composition of this one. Oh, this is the Vikings. I don't know if we have any Vikings fan. I have not seen the Vikings. I got a little wrapped up in Game of Thrones, so I'm kind of hard to switch over to the Vikings, but I heard it's good. But here is the Vikings story. Let's see what we have here. All right, so let's take a look at this version. I think there's 2 versions. Here's the other version. Nope, that's the composition or the composite. All right, let's go in here. So the Vikings. So I like this. This is interesting how in the reflection you have her and the reflection you have here. So this would be great for like a 3rd or 4th season when you've already established getting to know the characters more, that you focus more on the accessory of the Vikings. And this is kind of interesting how you have the shadow cast here on the eye. That's kind of an interesting little look on it. But I think this would be great as like a season 2, 3, 4, where we don't have to introduce the faces of the characters as much, but we're introducing them kind of more in a small way. Let's see. So let's take a look at the other one. This one's good too. What I like about this would be a great season 1 poster because you're getting to know the characters more. You kind of have to establish familiarity with faces when you have those season 1 posters. So I think this would look really good. And the typography here is well done. This is cool. Lots of good texture work. This is one of those shows that has lots of rich textures, and it just makes sense to use textures. Okay, in the rural village of Tumbad, a decaying castle hides an immeasurable ancestral fortune guarded by something ancient, sinister, and monstrous. Okay, let's see what they did here. So this tomb is hiding something monstrous and scary, and that's exactly what I get from this. This is a very creepy, scary poster, but it does the job it needs to do. I think this is great. What I like about it is you have black and white, black and white, black and white, and you have this red. And the only thing that's red is the title, and it really works to draw that eye into the title, and then you can look at the photos. But I think that was a smart move in terms of keeping things simple and keeping things where they don't compete with each other. I think the typography looks good. You just need to make sure everything is even. I believe this is a smaller space than this. So just make sure everything is aligned center to the page. Since you have this really strong center alignment, works really well. Just make sure you have the same spacing on the left and right sides of the column. That's such a minor picky thing to pick at, but since it's a design critique, just kind of showing you that. But in terms of how you did the pictures, spot on. Creeps me out, and that's exactly what you need to do in a horror film, is creep people out. All right, Julie. Some of these are brand new that I haven't had a chance to see ahead of time, so I'm seeing them for the first time. So let me go ahead and hide. Oh, let's take off extras. Okay, so sometimes it takes a team to find the one. Mindful dating. So we have Christina, so we have these two people and they get together and they help people fall in love. I'm guessing that's what the theme is here. So it's almost, I guess it could be a movie, but it also could be a show. Has anybody seen Love is Blind on Netflix? Just throwing that out there. Kind of addicted to that show. I already watched it, but at first I thought it was trash and I was like, this show is stupid. And then I started to watch it. I'm like, oh, this show is good. But anyway, so I think what we have here is we have a lot of elements, and this would make a great flyer for an event. But in terms of a show or a movie, we need to somehow simplify this. So we have all these characters. Sometimes it takes a team to find the one. So this looks like the couple that they're matching. Let me get my thing. So they're matching. Oh, I got to make that bigger. So we're matching these two people, but this is the team, I'm assuming, that gets it together. Would be really neat, and I know you probably didn't have the photos you could use, but you could have these four people kind of standing next to each other as a team with their backs to each other kind of thing, so that you didn't have all these different boxes of people. So it felt less like an event flyer and it felt more like a movie, like they're a team together trying to bring these two lovebirds together. And I would even have these guys, I wouldn't have them kissing because you don't want to give it away. You don't know if they are successful or not. So I think that's wise to keep them separated. So just a thought. Knives Out. I remember this one too. So they're doing some planning here. Working out some of the colors and the typography. They use Futura, which I use now for my videos. Trying to use just Futura. So the circumstances surrounding the death of a crime novelist. There's one thing that renowned detective knows for sure. Everyone is wildly dysfunctional, and the family is suspect. Now he must shift through a web of lies. So let's see what he did with the web of lies. Knives Out. Let's see. This is the final one. Move this in. So now I like this a lot because you have this wonderful use of yellow with the knives out, and look, you even have a knife there. What I might do is you have this wonderful kind of bounding box, which I'm usually not a fan of bounding boxes, but I think here it works really well. What I might do is, since you already have one up top, okay, you already have one down here, I would eliminate this one because you have such a cool like presentation with the knife. You don't want to compete with it. So I'd take that one out, and then that would clean it up quite a bit. And I think the typography looks really good. And overall, I like this little brush that kind of goes across because it brings the purple into the yellow, and those are complementary colors on the color wheel. So those are tending to pair very well together with this. So choosing the complementary colors, do that every once in a while. Look at the color wheel, find some opposite colors on the color wheel and see how they go together. Usually on black, it tends to really be a strong contrast with color usage. Okay, I have someone saying, may you answer me, please? Okay. That's not a question necessarily that I can answer during this live stream, but maybe sometime before. Hopefully you can be patient and understand that this is about reviewing people's work. I can't answer things about Upwork at this time, so thank you for being patient. You seem to get a little angry at me that I didn't answer you, so sorry, buddy. I got a lot of amazing posters to review. So we have some work here. Here's some photography. Let's go ahead and bring this in. So you can tell they use their own photography or a friend's photography. So I always appreciate when people use their own photography. You got to give them some extra credit for that because it does take extra work. Instead of using these super polished pexels.com photos you get for free, they're kind of using their own photography, which of course doesn't have that perfect lighting. So you got to give them credit for bringing that in and trying to make that photo work. So I really like this kind of two-tone layout. This guy, he looks great. He looks great. So there's always one villain behind you. So he definitely looks creepy, and he definitely looks like a villain. Like, I'm very scared of that guy. Like, he's going to haunt my dreams. He's just going to haunt my dreams because you only see like one eye, and maybe that's what's creeping me out. So what I would do is I would even make this a silhouette or make him darker, because right now these have similar lighting and it just looks like, hey, buddy, I'm the friend that you left behind. But if he's a creepy villain that's behind you, make him even darker. Like, I'm not quite sure how to present that, but you could even do a full kind of character standing behind him, or you could just make him a little bit darker. I don't know, some way to make him look, instead of just like a guy who's like, hey, don't forget about me, like a friend, I would make him more of a villain, like make him evil, even though he looks kind of evil right now. You know what I'm saying, just kind of figuring that out. So the villain behind you, composer, okay, so your biggest hater could be your closest friend, and people pretend well. So I think you did a good job of making that guy look like he is ready to kind of say, hey, buddy, where's your wallet? You know, it just looks like he's about to rob you. So that's really interesting. I like kind of the background graphics as well with this, and I love how you used your own photography. I always appreciate that. Or you borrowed it, or it looks like there's the friend. There he is. There's our little guy here. He looks normal there, but when the poster and all that, you know, kind of sets the tone. So I kind of see where you're going with that. So yeah, he's like, I'm out to get you. It's just the eyes, the way he looks at you. But looks like you guys are all real friends in real life, and it's kind of fun to use that. So very cool, very fun that you used your friends. So theme, a dark suspense, a thriller, a horror. Okay, so an ABC film, locked. Okay, chains, bricked, cracked walls. So you have all these ideas of texture. So this looks like it could be really crazy. So let's see what it looks like in the end. We have some compositions here. Ooh, it doesn't look as crazy as I thought it would. So let's just take, it looks like they have 2 movies. So let's just take a look at this first poster, because that's all we'll have time for. Okay, so a Joe Cooper film, locked. She wants to escape. So the sketches, I was a little worried. I'm like, there's a lot of things going on. But I think when you put it all together, it doesn't look nearly as busy as the layout plan looked. And a couple things I like is this brushwork down here. I think that really kind of draws your eye. And you have this O that's red, and I think that works. On green, it can be tough to get red and green to work. I know they're kind of opposites on the color wheel, but I just don't want to lose the red. I almost wonder if you can incorporate some texture on. Well, so you already have a lot of texture going on, so you might need to leave that clean. But I can tell you did a lot of great Photoshop work here. Like, I don't know if you incorporated this in or you incorporated this in, but you did a great job in terms of execution. Graphically in Photoshop, that looks really deep and looks like it's really on her. So from a technical standpoint, I really, really like kind of what you did. And with the chain, just make sure you erase the chain. You want that to go behind her. You don't want the chain to randomly just end right there. Locked. So I like the composition overall, and that big red splatter at the bottom really draws my eye in. Okay, so save me. We have some bevel and embossing effects going on here. So we got to be careful once again with the texture and the bevels and the bosses to make sure those look modern and clean and not too busy. The photo and the way you cropped it is brilliant. I feel like I want to reach out and grab her. I feel like it's a fantastic focal point photo. It's cropped perfectly. So in terms of the photo, it's great. I lose the headline. The headline gets mixed in because you have texture here, and you have texture on here. So I'd clean up the headline, maybe even make it just pure white. I don't even think you need to have effects. Or you can just bring out a little bit of her shirt, like I think you already tried to do. And I think this would look really, really good as is. I'll just tighten up spacing here between your names. And I think you got a really cool poster. Great, great, great photo work here. I love the way you cropped this photo. I think that's the most compelling part. What's really cool is the spiral kind of tends to draw your eye slowly and right into her. So that's exactly what you want to do in a poster. And I'm going to have to move a little bit quicker, so I'm so sorry if you're a later poster poster challenge review. I just wish I can review them all. Ooh, so black hats. There's 2 different posters. I'm going to have to choose one. Which one should I choose? How about the black cat? That looks really compelling to me. Ooh, interesting. So you kind of have this half and half thing going on. Typography looks fantastic. I like how the is kind of vertical. It's kind of interesting. You have contrast between black and cat, and you have kind of this italicized movement for the cat, and I think all that looks fantastic. Your typography is great. In terms of the photo, what I would do is zoom in just a little bit more, like 30% more on the eyes, just so, because right now you have all this great space to utilize, and we could probably zoom in on the eyes and the nose and the face a little bit more. And I would maybe have more of a cleaner transition and break here instead of having it fade so much. Just have it be a little bit more tight and clean, which would take a lot of little brush work and texture work, but I think that would help make it more defined instead of having it so blurred. You know, it almost looks like feathered. You know, you don't want to look like you just feathered it. You want to look like you really integrated the two. Maybe even having a little slight hairbrush. I mean, just kind of little ways to make it look like she is half and half, the black cat transitioning into the cat. So we have island, something with the island, the unknown island, facing your own fear. So there's their brainstorming process. I'd love to go in depth into all that, but let's go ahead and review the poster. So unknown island, facing your own fear. So what is the title? Is that the whole title? Unknown island, facing your own fear, or is facing your own fear a tagline? I have a feeling that this is the movie title and this is the subline. So it looks like one big title because it's all kind of stacked. So facing your own fear would look really good in white right here. Just facing your own fear. And it doesn't have to be very big because you could do white text on the blue, and that would provide enough high contrast for it to be readable. That would free up this whole space. All that typography would be down there, and that would clean up your island. You could show more of your island, and I would also make sure this is not so dark and blurred, because it's just, you know, I know you're trying to do a mystery, but maybe there could be some different type treatment for that. Word the unknown looks good too, but I think if you just did that tweak with the typography, I think this would look really clean. I might even do that in white too, just because I'm not seeing that super well. But just some small tweaks, this can be a really good poster because you have a really good photo choice with the a lot of opportunity in the ocean there. Jaws. Dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Ooh, I like your, this is nice and smooth. I think I made a comment on another person about how they needed to smooth out their blood. And you did a good job drawing your blood dripping down, and the opportunity to put the names into that blood splatter is genius. Makes it kind of fun and playful. Jaws, I like the illustration. Everything works really well. What I'd like to see is Jaws up here. Because right now you have Jaws way down below, so your focal point is like down here. And we want to have like a nice focal point toward the center so your eyes aren't drawn so much down that you're almost looking off the page. So that could be as simple as just moving your shark a little bit higher and having Jaws right here. Just a really simple tweak. And it'd be neat. I know this will take a lot of work, but it'd be neat to kind of have the letters kind of cracking from the pressure of the teeth, you know, but this is more of a contemporary flat illustration, so you don't have to go all crazy. But the top part is really, really nice. Next. Okay, Little Red. So there's a detail here that I didn't notice until it was pointed out, but I'm sure you'd notice it when the picture is bigger. But it's about like a vampire. She got bit by a vampire. So there's a vampire bite. So just to kind of let you know that there's a vampire bite. In terms of the photo composition, or the photo composite, I guess I should say, the photo composite looks really, really well done. The lighting looks good. She looks like she belongs in that dark wooded area. What I might do is brighten this part of the forest up a little bit so that you kind of bring her into the background more. So just brighten just kind of that area where you have the trees overlapping, just so you also are reminded that it is a forest, because right now it's really, really dark. So you just want to kind of put her into that forest background. You don't have to brighten the whole background, just a portion next to her. I wouldn't change the title at all. Perfect. Little Red. It's all you need. It's a great fitting typeface. All right, Linda, Hazards of Love. So we have two different versions, one with the detail. Let's do the one with all the details because that's the most realistic one. So the Hazards of Love. This almost looks like a book cover. It's not a bad thing, but Could be a book cover. But The Hazards of Love, I might tighten that spacing just a little bit. Based on the rock opera of the Decemberists. So, oh yeah, they took that album and kind of made their own kind of movie based on it, kind of a made-up thing. Here's what I would do. Similar to the Jaws poster, move these guys up, maybe put them right here instead. So you're bringing the title and the photo together a little bit more because there's so much distance here. There's a big void, a void of emotion right here. So being able to bring that, or really bring them up, would really help connect the two. And everything else looks fantastic, lighting and all that. I know you kind of put these two together from a composite standpoint. We can even look, I can sit there and look at shadows and stuff, but you did a good job, good work with shadows and stuff. You have kind of, I know you're trying to incorporate some of this mist color on this shirt, but I would make it a little bit sharper because it looks a little blurred or dull right there. So just little small details. I'm being very picky here too. That's not fair, but. All right, whew. Next, Hotel Transylvania. Even monsters need a vacation. So this is kind of a teaser poster. I'm losing all the names here, and those names are big names, so I might even just stack them right here all the way down. And check in December, what I might do is push this back a little so you have a stacked typography here. It might work a little bit better than having the left, just because it'll fit better in that space. It's kind of having some stacked typography instead of left aligned. There's little small things, and also Hotel Transylvania needs to be bigger. And I know there's not a lot of space here, so you might be able to make these names smaller, and even monsters need a vacation, perhaps that can go here. And that will free you up to put your title right about there. So just some layout tweaks and little things you can think about overall. But it's a good layout. Great start. Typography is hard to master, I tell you that much. Still trying to figure it out myself. So here's a composite, or composite. I keep mixing composite and composition. Those are two totally different words. So there's kind of the different photos they used. So they used a lot of different photos to put this together. So I'm not going to read the whole plot of Dune. Just know it's a classic sci-fi movie that came out decades ago, but it's really cool. So Dune, fear is the mind killer. So this is really cool. I think if you've ever seen the original movie, it has this kind of vibe to it. It kind of really matches the original movie theme. Just from a typography and design perspective, I would tighten the spacing between these, maybe even make, you just need to tighten the spacing. I don't think you need to add anything to that. Beautiful type work here. Beautiful type work here that matches the kind of the original sci-fi typography they used. What I really like here is this photo of the man walking. You don't really see him right away, but as you study the poster, you start to kind of see him. It almost looks like a Star Wars type planet when he's on the desert, and it's got a very similar feel to it. So this is a cult classic if you haven't watched it. It's been a long time since I have, but it's a really good movie. But the also, I like this. That's highlighted among all that, so it really helps draw your eye to the date without having to have the date somewhere else. It kind of keeps it subtle, but still there. And so this is a great, beautiful title and photo work here. All right, we're in the L's. We're more than halfway there. So the Nutty Professor. So has anybody seen the Nutty Professor? If you're a child of the 90s, you probably have. So the Nutty Professor is when he's kind of an overweight guy and he drinks his potion and becomes this really fit, athletic guy. And that's kind of he has the reflection here of kind of the bigger guy transforming into the little guy. So that's kind of why they did that and why the concept's there. So I think that works with the reflection. That's really a creative way to present it. And I like the different presentation of the headline, how it's diagonal, and then you also have one that goes this direction too. So you have kind of this interesting dynamic with your type direction along with the reflection. And I think this can all be condensed down to about half the size. You don't have to make the type smaller, but I think you could probably condense it down kind of like some of the other people were doing. that will leave you room for this little guy here to have more room. And I do lose this little section, so I'm not sure quite what to do with that inside. That's kind of more of a plot kind of hole. Maybe you can put it up here in this space, but I think the concept's there. So here's the plan for that one, sketching out. Let's see what they're doing here. Well, let's see what the plot is. Okay, the film depicts the life and work of an opera singer. Okay, so this is an opera singer. Okay, so let's take a look at the two ideas. Layout one. Oh, this is kind of interesting how you have kind of her full self right there, kind of throwing, looks like playing cards. This is a really detailed work. I like how this kind of is overlaid. They use layering masks. I might just clean that up just a tiny bit. Oh, I see that's shadows. Nice. But it has a nice layered effect just from a technical layout perspective. And the fact that you have the signature there is really, really neat. I like how you incorporated a handwritten signature because it is about her. And you have kind of some interesting things going on with kind of her neckline crossing over the A. So this looks really good. I might just make sure the type, this is just very small, make sure the type goes here so you don't have it too close to her head. Very small things like that. But this is interesting how you have her full self and then you have kind of her younger self. And I think the juxtaposition between the older and the younger, I think that works really well. So here's another one. I don't like this one as much. This is definitely more of a documentary, I guess, style instead of a movie style. Kind of more casual to me. It doesn't have the grand, opera is very grand. So I think the first one felt more alive and felt more grand. And this one feels way more casual, but probably more of a great biopic kind of thing where you're doing more of a documentary style. This is more down to earth and the other one was more spectacular. So there's two different kinds of vibes to the movie depending on, you know, what the movie would be after watching it. Okay, so poster challenge is the movie Raw, about a girl who becomes a cannibal. Holy cow. So let's see what a cannibal movie poster looks like. Wow. Look at that, Raw. So what are you hungry for? So this automatically draws my eye right here. What a compelling poster. Ooh, what are you hungry for? I definitely get cannibalism right away. I'm able to, you communicated exactly what the movie's about. You have some nice simple typography that works. I might even, we have all these awards. You could probably make the awards just a tiny bit smaller because the awards are really cool to have. What I might do is bring kind of the actors here and then bring the raw down just a little bit and bring this, zoom it in by like 20% on the heart. So you're going to connect the raw and you're going to connect the heart together. So all these other things don't get in the way, but they can be moved up just from trying to create as compelling of a poster as possible. But the photo choice and what you have in the background does not compete with the heart, so that's good. You got to check on that. You got to check on typography, check on layout. I would just do some tweaks there to really bring that title and that photo together to make it more connected. But I think this is really cool. Who is freaked out by this? That's the thing you want to do. It's about cannibals, so it can't be this cheery poster. I think they did a wonderful job with photo choices. Well done. Oh, we still got a while to go. Wow. I'm an hour and 40 minutes into this. My voice, I'm losing my voice. This is going to be a 3-hour thing. I'm tired. My voice is cracking. I can do it. We can make it. We can do it. Okay. All right. So The Exorcist. Ooh, classic movie. So they look like they were playing around with some different layout options. Let's see what they went with. Here's the original The Exorcist. Oh, that's the original movie poster. I would have made it. Wow, I don't even think I like the original one. So let's see if they did something more dynamic than the original poster. And it looks like they did. Oh, and here's the final layout. The Exorcist. So we have kind of that upside down cross. And the girl is floating. So that's a big part of the movie. If you've ever seen The Exorcist, it's really creepy. and the little girl talks like, and really good. Her head spins around and she throws up everywhere. It's a great movie. Okay, so The Exorcist, so she's floating. So that's a big part of the movie. So they incorporated that. This is cool. I like this better than the original. I would just tighten the is kind of out there. I'd make the a little bit smaller and put it right here and then move the title up slightly. I'm losing the purple, so I might need to pick a different brighter color to make sure the purple type stands out. But I think purple, isn't that the color of what she spews out, or is it green? I can't remember. But if it is purple, then I guess you have to kind of stick with purple, huh? To stay true to the movie. So this would be good. And, you know, have you tried red? I mean, maybe the green is, I have to watch the movie again to see kind of what color really comes to mind when you're watching the film, to see if there's something even bolder that you can use. But the illustration, the concept, spot on. Really cool. I like these really simple, flat, modern, contemporary pieces. You don't need to have like 50 photos put together. It just works. Let me take a break. Let me take like 1 minute. Go grab your popcorn. Intermission. Oh, and Lena, did I say her name right? Lena said you never saw the Eddie Murphy version, but you saw the original with Jerry Lewis. And I need to see the original. I've only seen the one when I was probably a teenager with Eddie Murphy, which is more of a I mean, the other one's a comedy, but I'd love to see the original because I've been watching with my kids on Disney Plus all the original movies, like the Flubber, like the Flubber movie that came out. They have it's the Professor. There's another movie with Professor. Anyway, I watched the original one from the 60s, and I liked it better than the new one. Sometimes the new ones, they just Hollywoodize it. Okay, so nice break. Ooh, Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind. So I'm not sure who's seen this movie. It's a great movie. This is important. Sorry, I'm going to do random movie quotes. But Close Encounters of the Third Kind, this is really, really interesting. Kind of bringing, and actually it's the third kind, so I guess this is the sequel. Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind. Or is it the third kind? Are you doing the sequel? I can't remember. Anyway, you can correct me on the comments. But the way, the texture and the lighting and the character, it's just really, really cool. Let's see if we can't bring it in. Let's see what all their layering system looks like here. So you can kind of see all the work they did. They even did a vortex. They did the background. So let's take a look even closer, because I think this is really well done. Oh, even better. Look, they did some 3D stuff in Cinema 4D. Wow, they really went above and beyond. They did some texturing down here. Yes, this is more impressive than I thought. So let's take a deeper dive into Photoshop. Now that we know they did all this custom, so they did that figure. They didn't just grab a photo and cut it out. They actually did a 3D rendering, and yes, it is a sequel. So I was right. I wasn't going crazy. It is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but this is the sequel when maybe they come back and they like abduct more people slowly and subtly with this cool funnel. But what I like about this poster is this gives you all that information you need, but just look how simple the title is. And you go, oh, that's a horrible title. It's so tiny. No, that's the point. It's subtle, and you have kind of this art piece happening. And why muck it up with a big old ugly title? Like, they could have done a big title here, but it wouldn't have made it ugly. They did this very, very nice type treatment, and I love it. I love everything about this. The typeface choice, the placement, the photo composition, the 3D rendering, the coloring, the details. It is like an art piece, and it really makes me focus on this person being abducted, and it just has this very subtle look to it. So this is definitely a contender for Best in Show. This is fantastic, fantastic job, and I think you're right here live with us. So I just wanted to commend you for your awesome work. Thank you so much. Kill Bill. Who's seen Kill Bill? Every time I see the movie, I just get the whistling in the beginning. Sorry, when the nurse walks by, I got to see that movie. But one of the big things about the movie is this color palette. Uma Thurman wears this kind of really cool yellow jacket thing, and it's got this black stripe down it, and it looks super cool. So when I see the poster here, kind of a modern, sleek take on it, and they use that color theme and they use the stripe, to me, that's a super strong concept. It's because I've seen the movie and I've kind of understand why they did the thing they did. And they also have a katana blade. She ends up killing 100 different people with this katana blade at the end because she's seeking revenge. And you have a little bit of blood that splatters. Blood is a big part of this movie. It's a very dramatic, over accentuated type of movie, where it almost plays on those old samurai movies from Japan where they just go overboard with killing and slicing and cool kind of crazy things where they're jumping 50 feet high. So the over dramatized blood is a really good kind of spark of that. And you even have this little slice in the typography to an ode to the samurai sword and the fact that she slices about 50 heads off in the movie. So I wouldn't touch it. I don't know if I would do something different with the placement of her name. I don't know if it would look good up here or not, if that would balance it, because everything's so center aligned. Maybe having her name up top might look good instead of competing with the that. But that's pretty much my only critique. I think it's well done. I appreciate all these little details. Oh, and he did Castaway. I don't have time to review this one, but I just wanted to show Castaway. It's Wilson. This is one of my favorite Tom Hanks movie I saw when I was a teenager. I think it came out Christmas Day. I remember going to the theater and watching it. Please watch this movie. It's really good, and you'll understand why there's a random volleyball with a bloody handprint on it. And so that's kind of a neat take on it. Okay, this is probably too long for me to read. Poster is a movie called... Okay, 2 movies, story, Canadian twins who travel to their mother's native country to uncover a hidden past, bloody civil war. Okay, so we have a war going on. Okay, so now that I've read that long plot, I didn't read it all the way, but kind of got a general idea. Kind of a war-torn movie, kind of there's sadness. So I just wanted to get an idea of the emotion behind the movie. That's why I kind of put the plots in there, and this is kind of a, you know, emotional, kind of depressing. I mean, no one's smiling here. I mean, this is war-torn areas. And the texturing here is fantastic. Typography is really good. I wouldn't really touch this very much. I think it's well crafted. You have kind of the main, what I would think would be the main character. And then you have a couple of people who play still good roles, but not as major of a role. So I guess if I'm right on that, then I think this is presented really well. The texturing is rich. The sepia tones go nice with the red typography headline. So I wouldn't really change anything here. It's a great poster. Okay, Alone. Now let me drag this in. Alone. Ooh, this is nice. Look at the photo here. And the headline. And the typography. And you have these little subtle details that work really well, but they're not over-exaggerated. They're very small and subtle. The type choice here is really good. It's raw, and it's got this kind of modern sans serif look to it, and almost kind of this really exaggerated crossbars and everything and arms of the type. It kind of makes it look very dramatic. Kind of a big closed counter if you've studied typography. Kind of a dramatic, tall, square closed counter of the A. So coming soon, Love and Betrayal. This just looks nice. You have this reflection here, which makes it very interesting. You know, who is this woman? You see this really strong reflection. What is happening? And seeing a reflection of herself reminds her of her loneliness. So there's a lot of deep things I'm maybe getting out of this. I do lose the red here, and it might just be that you just need to maybe darken the top corner to make sure that red name pops out. But other than this, it's another situation where I might not touch it because I think it's really well executed. This fantastic work. I am so proud of you guys. You are rocking it. Ooh, look at this one. I love the high quality of the photo work. It's just really crisp and sharp, and I really appreciate high resolution stuff. Ooh, this is neat. And unfortunately, I've seen Harry Potter movies, but I have not seen this one. I've seen like the first 3. So in terms of who this person is, I know who it is, but in terms of what exactly happens in the movie, it's a little bit of a gray area. But knowing that they're kind of somehow put together in this movie in terms of plot. You know, I at least get that. And of course, the headline of this is really good. I know they got that from somewhere else, but the placement and the size is really good with the black. But the texturing and the fact that they're put together looks really, really interesting. I know he's like the bad guy, the one on the left. He looks pretty evil. Maybe I did see this one, but it's been many, many years ago. But it's just interesting. You have these like slanted eyes, but you have these like round, soft, gentle eyes. So you have this evil versus good happening here, and you have this dark contrast. I wouldn't touch this. This is another situation where I wouldn't touch it. I think it's perfect. Perfect as is. Great poster. Great high resolution images too. Okay, we have another one here. Let's open this one up. Jazz to my ears. Okay, so I wish, do I have a plot? Do I have a plot? I don't have a plot. I should have asked her. That almost looks like, you know, perhaps, you know, kind of a hearing aid. So it could be this whole plot line that I'm missing here, kind of trying to focus on one particular sound. I don't know the plot line, but I'm just trying to guess based on what I'm seeing in the illustration. So at first you go, well, that's too busy, the background, but it could have a saying in the plot, how it's kind of hard to focus on, you know, one brilliant noise. There's so many noises and it's hard to focus on one. So from a creative concept perspective, I think maybe this busy background could work depending on what the plot is. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand the plot and make sure because you could write something off and say, well, that's busy, but if there's a real reason why it's busy, if you could tie it into the plot, then do it. I'm a firm believer in concept over design. If your concept is strong, it can beat other design things. You want to make your concept strong. Design stuff comes second. You know, that's kind of my thing. You got to have a reason why you're doing stuff. There's a reason why you use something. And you got to remember that. It's not about just looking perfect all the time. It's about showing a concept and communicating something that could be complex, but try to make it as simple as possible. So jazz to my ears, what I would do is close kind of the gap between there. I would reduce the size of that type just a tiny bit to kind of free up some room. So yeah, I'd love to know the plot if you had time to kind of share. If you already did, I'm sorry, I don't think I got that. So just trying to figure out kind of what the plot is to that movie. So we have a space movie, Scarlett Johansson, Under the Skin. I don't know if these are two different posters or I guess they are two different posters. I love this one. That one seems to be really working under the skin. I wish I had some of the early ones I didn't save a plot for. So I wish I knew how space was incorporated into this movie to kind of figure it out. But I would love to see a little bit more of her face. So it could be that you use a layering mask and you just do a 50% like black brush and you kind of just slightly clear away, like maybe half of her face is clear, just so it looks like she's kind of in and out of the star. She's not just behind a bunch of stars and she's far away. And she bring her in closer emotionally to the poster and the piece because she seems so far away and distant in that one. Once again, I wish I had the plot for that one, but that could have been my fault. Okay, so this one, we have boxing. Boxing is the theme. And let me go ahead and look. This is the updated version they have. And I believe they used some of their own work, own photos. So I think they had their kids do something. They had their kids kind of, this is about like a boxer who lost their childhood. So they didn't get to have a childhood and they had a rough life of boxing. And I think they had their children create kind of this thing right here. So they did some custom stuff to this. They didn't just whip it up from a photo, that they did some custom work. And I always appreciate when people take that next level step and take it the next further, even incorporating, you know, other people in your family into it is really a fun way to practice design. In terms of layout, I think the photo composition, great. Wouldn't change it. I don't lose the headline. It's right there, Hurricane Carter, but I'd love it if it was maybe 20% bigger, maybe just a little bit more prominent. I would probably put Denzel Washington, because you have a lot of stuff here that you need to incorporate, and I think we can clean it up. Maybe put Hurricane Carter as 2 lines and put it right here, and we could find a way to put Denzel Washington up here, maybe another actor up here, Golden Globe winner could be here. I know there's a lot of stuff you got to incorporate, just trying to break up all that text and make the headline just maybe 20% bigger somehow. But in terms of the kind of raw, gritty texture used and everything, I think this is really compelling. I would even make this 20 or 30% bigger and have this kind of overlap it a little bit, those two elements, just to bring that in. That's really neat that you incorporated that. We're almost there. The movie is called The Blanket. I came up with this idea from a movie called Rubber. It's a movie where Tyree kills people by some psychic power. Okay, here I envision people sleep with a particular blanket gets killed. Ooh, interesting. The blanket. You definitely don't want to get hit by the blanket. You don't want to wear the blanket or you get killed. So the blanket. So this is kind of an interesting typography choice for this, kind of more of a space, like I'm getting more modern sci-fi from it. What I might do is even add texture to this. Of course, you're kind of doing a modern take. So it's interesting, the blanket. So I don't know if I'm quite getting blanket out of that. Maybe because I'm missing the waves and the curves. And I could tell you use the 3D tool, maybe in Illustrator, kind of make the blanket. I would soften it a little bit just to make sure people know. And is this, I don't know if this is a pillow or not of it. So I don't know. I think the black and the red work really well together. I'm just not getting soft blanket. I'm getting, because you did the 3D tool, it looks a little harsh. So I might just kind of play around with some different ideas of incorporating a blanket into the theme. Mohammed. Okay, so we have some anime action going on here. So we have different photos that they used, and let's see what they compiled all together to create this anime poster. So that's neat. I wonder if you did the headline yourself. Let's take a look. You might have. Or that could be the headline of the show. I'm not sure if you did the headline or not, but I like this kind of 3D where you have the left and the right side divided. I think the overall layout looks good. What I might do is do like a thinner weight here for the last name, or maybe take that back. A thinner weight for the first name and leave that bold, just to kind of, you don't want all these to run together and be all the same weight because they're so close together. And March 20th, okay, that all looks good. You kind of put together some simple people. You need to make sure your scaling is right. So we have this person in the background, and unless they're really, really short, I don't know. I just wonder if the sizing compared to each other is enough, if he needs to be more in the background, if he needs to be more in the background or bigger, because he's right next to him. So he may just need to be a little taller, just trying to make sure you're scaling your characters so the foreground and background characters scale appropriately so no one's bigger than they need to be, kind of thing. But the background and you incorporating them into this is really good. It's good to see some anime. I think that was the only anime. Wow, it just keeps going. Ooh, this one used double exposure. So the Isthmus of Panama. And wow, this is probably the most impressive poster I've seen because it's just so stunning with the double exposure effect that's happening here. This is beautiful, beautiful work. Wonderful typography. The credits down below are perfect. And wow, so you have this man, and you're with double exposure, you're able to incorporate two different ideas into one photo, but then you're communicating a third thing because of the combination of the two. So you're inside this man's head, he's imagining kind of walking across this bridge, and it kind of really has this rich story to it. And this is a really great double exposure. You're not seeing anything outside. They were able to kind of really do a good job, even just the details. Here, if you zoom in, you can tell that they did a great job of making sure there's nothing bleeding out from the other photo, because when you do double exposure effect, and I teach this in one of my classes, is you do blending mode, sometimes you do overlay, sometimes you do lighten, and sometimes there's leftover on the white that you have to trim off, and you have to just make sure it looks like really good like this. So really appreciating this. Is definitely one of those best in show contenders. You let me know who you think deserves the best in show. I wouldn't change a freaking thing. It's beautiful. Wouldn't change a thing. Very cool. All right, going faster and faster because I'm already at 2 hours. Oh, and my back hurts. Woo, being 9 months pregnant is no joke. Ooh, this is kind of an illustrative contemporary. We've got a lot of people doing that, and I think that's a great idea. A Halloween animated version. So this is the animated version of Halloween. Ooh, the blood dripping past the type or over top the type is really good. The spacing here on animated is nice. I just put a little more spacing between kind of the edge here. But I mean, there's not really a whole lot to, I would also add just a tiny bit of spacing in John Carpenter. And since he is kind of a big name, I would maybe stretch it a little bit bigger right here. But these are very, very small things. Just kind of work on your spacing. Don't crowd things too much. Illustration's perfect. I wouldn't touch it. Once again, texture wins the day there on the blue. And the combination of these blue colors with some of these pink highlights makes it look really good. So it's kind of using those combination of warm and cool colors to create a very compelling illustration. Okay, so there's a lot here. Is there one that you really want me to focus on? I know you are live right now. So let me know if there's one that you're like, I really want you to look at that one. Because they're all really good. I just don't have a lot of time to focus on one. Here's a Beauty and the Beast one. So Beauty and the Beast. So this is really neat. I like how you focus in on the rose because that's a big part of the movie. What I would even do is make these kind of more gray because you have that one rose that Belle has. And this could be a whole nother takes, Beauty and the Beast. So I don't know if it's not like the Disney version, so you might have a whole nother version here for that. But the typography, you're just really good at typography. I've reviewed a lot of your work. I never have any problem with your typography because it's always really good. And you have some really cool font pairing here, and you got this nice centerpiece, and it just looks really good. Just this whole focal point. I wouldn't change really anything again with this one. I think this looks really good. Let's take a look. Let's just show one more. There's a couple of them. Check him out. He's a wonderful movie poster designer. He's got an Instagram account. Feel free to post that if you want on the feed so people can check out your stuff in more detail. Okay, next. Okay, it's an action movie based on Narcos, which I know is about drugs and stuff. I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it and I know it's about drugs. So Tranquila, November. I don't know if that's a different language or just make sure that's spelled correctly. Could be a different language, who knows. But Tranquila, and then we have this division here. This is interesting. What I'd like to see is kind of, you have this type on the left, and maybe it means something. I haven't seen Narcos, so sometimes it's hard to know. But I'd love to be able to read that type and know, and it's not just random text, that there's like a meaning behind this. And I know there is. And not knowing the plots can be hard to know, but I do kind of like this double face thing. It's been done a lot, but this is a nice clean headline. I wouldn't touch a whole lot. I wonder if Tranquila, I'd probably keep everything as is. I wouldn't touch it. I think this is good. Very clean. It's not a lot to touch. If you have less elements and mess in your design, you're going to need to do less to fix it because, it's clean, it communicates something simple, and it can be powerful. So now we have the unexpected island. Interesting. This kind of reminds me of Leonardo DiCaprio's The Beach. I don't know if that's kind of what you thought it would be. But what I would do is I lose these names. So here's what I would do. Just do a little reworking here. We have this very strong, compelling photo, and we have this mountain, and then we have another strong photo here. So that's two focal points that are separated from each other. So it makes me wonder what we can do here, and it might require some Photoshop work to incorporate these two. Unless you put both people's heads here and you just have the island here, that's one option. So you can kind of have the two faces be equal. Just trying to think of a way where we can condense these two totally different focal points that are separated so much, bring them together somehow. I'm not quite sure exactly how at this moment. But the unexpected island, I would do something with maybe it's the wide spacing and the sans serif that are just in its lowercase. Maybe bring that together, maybe make it the same type treatment as island. All you need is light. I would move these guys up top here and here, and all you need is light. Maybe down here in this darker area I might read a little bit better. So just some ideas kind of looking at. I like this. This photo is great. We just need to figure out where to put her in terms of the plot. Her right there. She seems a little out of place. Sky Captain. So here's some ideas that they had, some inspiration. I'm guessing they did all of these kind of different layouts, so we can kind of look and see the type work that they really created. They really were exploring a lot of different typeface treatments, some lowercase, some uppercase, and this is exactly how many versions you should have when you're doing a real movie poster. You should have 20. You'd have so many versions that you have a folder full of ideas. Because you're never going to get it that first time. You got to tweak your typography. So it's really neat to be able to see his process. So let's see what they finally ended up with. All those different versions. This is the one they ended up with, and I think it's a good choice. I'm kind of liking this diagonal kind of movement. It's not over dramatic. It's just enough to add movement. And we also have this movement here. I wonder though, with the typography, I guess this is kind of slowly funneled out. That's why it looked like it was off the baseline, but it just looks like they wanted to kind of have this kind of funnel slowly fading out. It looked like at first that this was off the baseline, but that's just the way they treated it. And I wouldn't change a lot about this. I would just maybe try to seek, and it could just be the file that you sent me and how it rendered. But I like this kind of plane coming through here. I would almost make the plane bigger and have the plane overlap text just maybe 20 to 30% bigger. Just have some sharper, higher resolution images, but once again, that could just be just how I save the file. But in terms of overall idea, concept, colors, composition, I think it looks fantastic. Something about the lowercase here, maybe because it's lowercase, I'm not, because you have the baseline that slowly comes out, but then up here you kind of have, you know, it changes because it's lowercase. Something about that throws me off, but I can't tell you exactly what at this moment. But I like the type treatment of Sky Captain, and overall looks really good. We're almost done, everybody, I promise. Okay, Lost Cause. So this is a screenshot. I think, is this the one that's a screenshot from a video game? I can't remember if that was the case. Ooh, the blood on here is cool. What I think is, I lose this a little bit. This is a really neat type treatment. And I think if we just brought it up a little bit, made it slightly bigger, and then made it a little bit brighter, maybe a little more fog behind the typography, just a little bit, I think it'll come out a little better and become brighter, because right now it's just so dark compared to the dark background. I really want that beautiful metal and texture to come out. So you're going to have to bring that out lightness-wise, or reducing the amount of fog that is in front of the typography. Because everything about this is good. You have this interesting centerpiece. I wouldn't touch much else. Just the headline, and maybe even a center align, because everything is so, look, everything is pointing down, center, 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 and then you have a left alignment. It's like, whoa, why is there a left alignment? So maybe exploring doing a center alignment with the type would also help the whole piece feel like it's all center aligned. Okay, so the plot to this one is: in and around Lucknow University, 1989, couples of varying ages explore politics of love through marriage, budding, romances, and friendship. So let's take a look at this. So Taj, the mystery, interesting. So what I do like about this is the focal point photo. And there seems to be kind of some romance happening up here, but I can't tell because you can't really see it. So what you might need to do is bring this out more, and you can use blending modes and layering masks to bring that out more, and then the Taj could be over here in kind of that darker spot. So you kind of bring it in the romance, because you have romance, you have the setting, you have the background, you have the girl. So you might need to do something a little bit different with the placement of the headline, because you don't want to block that sense of romance, because right now I would probably suggest to remove it, because I don't think you can bring that photo out and have the headline on top of it. It would fight too much. So you might need to do something different with the title. And the mystery, this seems to be kind of smaller and condensed, and this seems to have more spacing. I would have the same type treatment throughout that whole thing and have the same spacing, so you don't have this kind of almost divided type treatment. And the title is good. I like the type used there as well. Everything else looks good. It's a really nice center aligned piece. Okay, plot to this one. This is a Brazilian movie that was just released and tells a story of Ophelia, who sends her father a letter saying she would go swimming until she could reach him, saying she would. Okay, so let's take a look at the movie poster. So let's see what their layering system looks like. So this is showing kind of how they use layering masks to kind of create the poster. And that is a mock-up. Let's get the real one. Here's the real one. Ooh, this is interesting. We got a lot going on, and I think we can somehow get away with it. The white text looks fine. I do kind of lose that, so what I would do is not make that transparent as much. And I think if you made it a solid color, it would eliminate some of the busyness here with all the different photography. And I think this bottom half with the, I think this looks really great. The only thing that bothers me, I think, is this top girl. And she's a big part of the movie. I almost wonder if we put her here and we have him here. So what we do is we have kind of these dueling people that kind of have this nice diagonal spacing so that you're not having her overtake him. So we kind of have this dueling faces here and balancing that out a little bit. Just kind of, a lot of this I'm just thinking out loud. It's not anything that I would say you have to do this to make it better. It's just things I'm thinking out loud and just saying it as I see it. Just trying to reduce the busyness a little bit and competing photos. You don't want photos to compete. You want them to work together. So just an idea. Typography is great. I like this sans serif typeface. I don't know what it is, but it looks really, really good. Bodoni, or it's really thick. So just trying to think what sans serif that, or serif that would be. But it's a beautiful serif typeface and great colors. Browns, tans, and some of these light greens work very well. Those pair very well together. Oh, I thought we only had 3 left. Oh, we got like 10 left. Woo, you guys are keeping me busy. All right, so the caviar nose. I'm just going to totally butcher that. I'm horrible at anything French, if that's French. But this is pretty cool. Wow. Not sure I would change anything. You can tell that the butterfly was placed on her. So there could be some little small things you do, like changing the lighting, maybe bringing out some highlights in certain areas of the butterfly. You could even just do some small custom drawn shadows here to make it feel like it's resting on her face. So I think it's more about just making sure those photos belong more together. Would be really good. And I like how you incorporated the wings in the top. So other than that, in terms of composition, I wouldn't really change anything. I would just do little subtle hints to make your Photoshop work really shine by kind of adding some slight drop shadows, maybe some highlights into the butterfly. You can even bring out certain colors, although you're bringing out the gray here. You can even bring out some red somehow in there. Just something like that might work really good. Okay, so layout. Very simple layout. Let's see what their final looks like. So, Troid car. What's a Troid car? Maybe this is something I don't know about. If you want to make a comment and let me know what you think this is about, I'd love to know. But it kind of reminds me of another kind of modern style poster where you have this really clean typography, and then you have this really clean, simple illustration. They don't overlap. They're not doing anything crazy. And it's really simple, and it kind of works in terms of the layout. Like, it works. I just don't know the plot, and maybe I missed the plot. I didn't save the plot. Oh, a movie inspired by a movie inspired by do not get home early and sleep at your car. Wait, a movie inspired by Do Not Get Home Early, and yeah. So maybe it's a horror film. Don't sleep in your car or they'll come and kill you. That's why it's red. But in terms of blocking, I actually like it. I really do. I like the blocking of this and the elements. I think that looks really good. In terms of understanding the plot, it's one of those ones that I just didn't grab the plot on, which could be important, and to why the poster's the way it is. So I just missed that one, so sorry about that. Okay, this one's, ooh, look at the texture on this. This almost looks like a magazine ad. Murder on the Orient Express. The who's who and the whodunit. Is this the right one? Just make sure I got the right one. That's the right one. So the texture, composition, the typography looks good. It's just one of those ones that I talked about earlier where it's great. It just needs to be brighter. Just from a printing perspective, when you have something print that's this dark, it's going to print dark, and you need to have something that really pops out. You can really bring out this fire more. You can bring out the details of the rim of this metal. You can probably bring out highlights, just more highlights overall in each element to make this really make sure elements stand out more, so it just brightens up the whole thing. You do not have to brighten up the whole background. You just need to bring out just certain little elements to make it brighter overall. Okay, we're almost there. So this is supposed to be like a combo movie, and I asked what the combination was. I don't think I got an answer back. Maybe I did and I didn't see it. We have Tom Cruise cut out. We have another Tom Cruise behind him. We have another Tom Cruise. So there might be something with the way this is mixed up with another plot. I just didn't know what it was. But from a design, Photoshop, lighting perspective, it looks really professional, looks clean. Great typography. I like this texture here, the blue, how it's not all just a solid box, but you have kind of some highlights here and some shadows. It makes it look like a nice rich texture box. And the fire is really good here, and just it's well executed in terms of putting the photos together. These guys, maybe not so much. They look like they're just pasted in there. So maybe finding ways to incorporate. And maybe it's just because this one is so sharp and these aren't quite as sharp. And he looks like too nice here, and he looks all gritty, and he looks like he just had his headshot done. So it could just be a thematic thing with the photos that might be off. But in terms of execution, from a design, Photoshop standpoint, it looks really professional, and it looks really, really good. I Am a Cat. So based on the Japanese classic. So let's see if I have a plot on here. I don't think I do for this one. Okay, so I Am a Cat. So this is really cute. And what I love about this is the big wide margins. Doesn't that make it look clean and professional? Beautiful type work here, just all boxed up and left and right aligned. There's no raggedness. It just looks so good. I'm just such a nerd for type. This is a great example. This is probably the strongest example of typography that I've seen. So I Am a Cat. So based on the Japanese classics. So I love the typography here. What I do think, we could highlight the cat more. And one way we can do that is maybe have a little bit less elements around here to kind of make it less distracting, so you really see that cat and you really see that headline pop out, and you don't have the background competing with your main photo. Oh, my kids are home. So if you hear my kids, sorry about that. So Broken, we only have a couple more left. So let's do this. So Broken. Ooh, creepy. Look at that face. That is creepy looking. And you have this hallway. I love how everything is set up. I might even make Broken a little bit bigger. But everything looks pretty good. Somehow it got saved as a lower resolution photo. But this and these two photos, they go really well together. And I would just make the headline slightly bigger. So I'm going to have to move really fast here. Kids are back. Oh, I hate how I have to move so fast through these, but I'm at almost 2.5 hours. Oh, is the audio still breaking up now? just making sure. All right, so The Lion King in cinemas. Okay, so The Lion King. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. My kids just came home and they're running around. So sorry about that. What I would do here is we have this fading of the type. I would probably not do that and keep it all clean. And what I would also do is bring the down here a little bit closer to the headline. And I would also do Walt Disney Presents as maybe one line, just to clean it up a little bit. So because you have this kind of childlike Walt Disney, and you kind of have this really serious tone. So you either want to go all serious with your typography or more childlike with your typography, because right now we're mixing styles of kind of a childlike typography choice and a serious typography choice. So I would also bring out the line more, once again with highlights, maybe bring out the eyes, kind of really draw people in. So when you're using black and white, you really have to be over dramatic, because black and white can look really dull if you don't really bring out those highlights. Oh, the audio might be because I've been doing this for so long. So let me know if it's still broken up. I might have to save the rest for later. I might have to do a separate video. If my audio is still breaking up, I'm going to talk continuously for 30. I'll do one more review. If the audio is cracking up, it might be because the live stream has gone on way too long. Oh, let me hide that. The live stream might be going on too long and I have to stop it. So I'm going to do one more, and if you still have broken audio, let me know. Okay, so we have another one, Wrap Retriever. Ooh, cool. I like the white border here too. This is great. Great type work. Once again, this is probably too close. Little P in the nose. That looks a little awkward. So I'd either put the P over the nose or put the nose over the P just a little bit more, maybe 10 or 20% more. So you don't have this right at the edge kind of thing going on. But this is perfect. This is a wonderful layout, wonderfully crisp. Oh, it's getting bad now. Okay. So I haven't changed my audio, so it might be because the live stream has gone on too long. So let me go ahead and stop. I want to stop right here. I want to just make sure people know that this is a very strong layout. I really, really like this one. This is another contender for Best in Show. I'm going to have to come back and do the rest later because I think the live stream has officially gone on too long. There must be some kind of limit here. So I'm going to go ahead and get off, and I'll do another live stream to finish off the last 10 posters. Thank you guys so much.